Joining me right now is Oklahoma Senator James Lankford, who recently worked with a bipartisan group of senators to unanimously pass a resolution which condemned anti-Semitism on college campuses. Senator, thanks very much for being here. Your thoughts on this activity that is continuing?
Yeah, it is not only continuing, but it's rising. This is something many of us called out a year ago, 2 years ago, saying we're seeing the rise of anti-Semitism on college campuses. Obviously, Hamas's attack on Israel has just accelerated that across many college campuses, is what we saw fairly quietly but belligerently has now risen to be very out loud and become the trendy thing to do to be able to attack and belittle Jews on campus. So we're working to be able to push back on this, to be able to speak with one voice and to say this should not be an American value. Our American value should be to be able to stand up for the rights of every person to be able to live their faith and to be able to share their faith and to be able to engage in civil discourse on it. But that's not what this has become anymore. And quite frankly, I continue to be able to push on the Department of Education to get a basic definition of anti-Semitism across all campuses from the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition that the State Department accepted decades ago, but for whatever reason, the Department of Education won't actually push that out to be able to say this is what anti-Semitism looks like. Here are all the examples, but they just pull back from actually putting that out to their campuses.
So, Senator, where is the aid? Where does that stand? The House is set to vote on the standalone $14 billion Israel aid bill today. Speaker Mike Johnson meeting with GOP senators yesterday, saying that the Israel money must move alone by itself. But Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell wants the Ukraine money attached. He says the issues are intertwined. Some have concerns that we don't know where that money to Ukraine is actually going.
Yeah, so I would tell you on the Senate side, there's not a determination, there's not a bill, there's not an aid package that actually exists. The president has made a request to the Senate, and those of us that are conservative senators have said that's dead on arrival. We're not going to do the kind of things that he was asking to be able to do in that particular proposal. So there is no response from the Senate at this point. And obviously, unfortunately, Mitch McConnell is not the one who gets to respond to the House. It's actually Chuck Schumer is the one who actually responds back to the House and takes the lead. So the House has done something very basic, saying that Israel's in a crisis at this point. We need to be able to stand with our ally Israel, but we also have a debt crisis that's going on in our own nation, so we should be wise. So they're asking a basic question: how can we support Israel and make sure that we're actually trying to be able to manage our debt at the same time? I think it's a pretty reasonable thing to do.
But the president said he's going to veto it if it's not combined. He wants aid for Ukraine if he's going to give aid to Israel.
Well, the Speaker Johnson's come out and said, hey, he wants to be able to work on aid to Ukraine at this point. He wants to be able to deal with the different issues that are out there because we have a multitude of issues. But he's saying the priority first is to be able to move the Israel aid. So, again, the House can continue to be able to move that, send it over to the Senate, and then get a chance to negotiate with Chuck Schumer at this point.
Wow.
But they're making clear their priorities are Israel and dealing with our national debt. Second, after that, is going to be Ukraine and dealing with border security to make sure we're securing our own nation.
Well, a top aide for Ukrainian President Zelensky recently admitted that corruption is a massive problem for officials there. He told Time magazine, quote, people are stealing like there's no tomorrow. Senator, okay? So what have we sent to Ukraine already? $113 billion. 117 Republicans voted no more money until we have an accountability of this money.
Well, the good news is there is accountability actually tracking for the money, and Zelensky has actually fired multiple employees for that corruption. So he's speaking out and saying that there is corruption. He's firing and removing those folks to continue to be able to protect the future for Ukraine, their own safety and security. The frustration in Ukraine, and I've talked to some Ukrainian officials on this, is they want to be able to purge this because they realize their country's sheer existence is on the line. So it's not just their ethics, but it's their existence. And there are actually 3 different inspectors general and 20 different groups that are actually tracking the American dollars that are coming in. So there has been a huge ramp up of oversight, which is a good thing, that's already on the ground in Ukraine, being able to track these dollars coming in.
I got to get your take about America and the safety of this country. I want to get to this migrant caravan in a second. But first, let's talk about this hearing the other day with Christopher Wray. He was speechless when asked by one of your colleagues whether or not the United States is any safer since Joe Biden took the Oval Office. Watch this.
Do you believe, is the United States safer from foreign terror threats today? Are we safer than when Joe Biden took office, from the day he took office?
What I would say to you is that the terror threats have elevated. but I also think there are a lot of things the country has done throughout law enforcement to be better prepared to deal with them.
Yeah, he had to really think hard on that one. A migrant caravan is headed to the United States, the southern border right now. It has already grown by more than 1,000 people in just 24 hours. Look at these pictures. 7,000 people, Senator. Earlier this week, you grilled Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas about the border crisis, and here's what he told you. Watch.
What are the key changes that need to happen in the law? And I'm going to go through quite a few issues here. Hit the high points. What are the things that need to be able to change?
Senator, we need a functioning system that marries labor supply with labor demand. We have taken important steps in that regard within the context of a broken immigration system.
Is policy changes needed?
Yes, policy changes are needed.
Senator, you got him to admit policy changes are needed. Is that going to mean anything for the border right now?
That was actually first step because, as you know, the Biden administration sent over a request for more money for the border, but no actual policy changes for the border. And Chuck Schumer earlier, in fact, last week, made the comment that, hey, we don't need policy changes. We just need more money for the border. That's going to solve it. It's clear more money is not going to solve the problem at this point. We've actually got to have real changes. And I pressed on to Alejandro Mayorkas at that hearing saying, do we need changes in the definition of asylum? Do we need changes in what's called withholding? Do we need changes in how we actually handle recalcitrant countries? All of those answers, he said yes, coming back to it's not just dollars that are going to fix this, it's policy changes that are going to fix this. That's the real difference, and we've got to have it. And the reason Christopher Wray can't say we're safer is we have 70,000 people just in the last 2 years that have crossed that southern border that are called special interest aliens. These are individuals from countries where there's known terrorism that have crossed across our border that because they weren't on our terror watch list, they were still released into the country on their own recognizance, awaiting a hearing years from now, and we have no idea where they are. So no, clearly we're not safer. It's apparent this administration has not learned the lessons of 9/11.
So are you going to be surprised if we see a terrorist attack here in America?
I will be pained and grieved on it like everyone else will, but I will not be shocked because this administration has not been careful monitoring the border. We've had 150 plus individuals that we've identified that are on the terror watch list that we've picked up. That is more than the last 5 years combined. But may I remind you, 1.5 million people have crossed just this year that were gotaways. We have no idea where they are or who they were. They weren't checked at all. So this unchecked immigration that's happening across our southern border is a basic national security issue, and I've been ringing that bell for years now to say it's not only a drug issue, it's not only a labor issue, it's not only empowering the cartels in Mexico with more and more money and power, but it's a serious national security issue for the United States.
Well, isn't this a dereliction of duty on Joe Biden's part? How come he's still in the job?
The very first responsibility of any president is securing the United States of America and paying attention to that, and he is clearly not doing that.
Kayleigh, jump in here.
Senator, I want to go back to the first topic that we were talking about. You and a few of your colleagues helped pass a resolution in the Senate condemning anti-Semitism in higher education. But isn't there more that Congress can do, especially in regards to public universities that are funded with our taxpayer dollars? Just a couple of years ago, Congress gave another $30+ billion to public universities as part of the American Rescue Plan Act.
Yeah, there clearly are things. I mentioned a couple of them already. One is putting in place the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition across the Department of Education so we make clear what anti-Semitism is and to be able to push that out to every university and to say if universities allow this, promote this, don't discourage this, don't actually engage on it, that there's financial consequences that Congress should be able to step up and be able to limit funding. The second big issue and the first thing that can actually be done is parents need to be able to speak with their dollars and their individual students of where they're going to send their students. If you're sending your student to a university that just shrugs on anti-Semitism, what else are they teaching your child?
Yeah.
And so parents should be engaged in actually where their students are actually attending, and students should wake up and say, do I really want to be at a university that promotes this?
Yeah, terrible. Senator, thank you. We'll be watching. We appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you.
Senator James Lankford in D.C. this morning. Stay with us. We'll be right back.